right, she said, but the way she grinned I could tell she had something else in mind. Only I had no idea what. Now, unless you want to visit some more, Dean, I think we should get back. She was definitely cooking up something. Yeah, I'm sure your dad is going to have a fit after we left like that. Congrats, Beth, I said and hugged her. Sorry about the whole plot thing. She hugged me back. No, it's fair. Just know I'm not that person anymore. We left the hotel room, and I took Nick's hand in mine. So what are you cooking up? Me cooking up? I don't know what you're talking about, she replied, giving me a sly look. You have something planned. 26, 27 Nick, the next 2 days, I spent training hard, preparing myself for what was going to be an awesome fight. Anton and I stood at opposite ends of the gym. Father was advising me on how I should fight, but I wasn't listening to him. I was done listening to him, and to be honest, at this point the plan was to enjoy pitting my strength against Antoine's. After meeting the wannabe alpha, I didn't think my pack was in danger. He seemed like a man that wanted to ensure the safety of his growing family, just like the majority of werewolf men when such things come to pass. I couldn't see him killing members of my old pack because they served Father unless they gave him a reason to. It's time, Wesley said in a loud voice, having agreed to referee the fight. Nick, you have to win, Father said, glaring at me. The desperation was easily visible in his eyes. Father, things are changing. As soon as Brandon left, it began, and this time there is nothing you can do to stop it. You better get used to that idea, I told him. He frowned at me, but before he could say anything more, I turned to Dean. Be careful out there, he said, looking worried, but his voice was almost bitter when he added, and you don't have to win. I know, really, don't worry. I know, I replied, punching his shoulder lightly and walked out to join Anton in the center of the room. I took his hand and shook as per custom. Fight fair, fight hard, and the first person who can't safely continue loses. Anton gave me a funny look, but dipped his chin in a nod. We took a few steps back, and the fight began. I took the offensive since I didn't think he'd feel comfortable doing it. I charged him, slamming my fist into his stomach and hitting the inside of his knee with my own. He grunted, falling to one knee, and I bounced back a couple of steps. Proof that I wasn't dainty and I didn't need him to patronize me. I wanted him to really fight. His eyes blazed as he looked up at me, and I brought up my fists, ready. He stood and ran at me, no doubt trying to tackle me and use his heavier weight against me, but I danced out of the way and kicked him in the ribs. Antoine grunted, but otherwise seemed unfazed. I rushed him, hitting him in the kidneys, ribs again, and he dodged my jab to the temple. His massive fist swung at me, and I dodged, but saw his second swing too late. As his fist connected with my jaw, my vision blurred, and my ears started to ring. I stumbled back and, acting on pure instinct, managed to dodge the next few swings. I blinked as I bounced back away from him until my vision blurred back into focus. Okay, so getting hit by this guy was a very bad idea. I ran at him, faking a kick to the right, and went left for his ribs, kneed him in the side, punching him where he'd hit me as hard as I could. A surge of victory ran through me as he wobbled on his feet, but he was far from finished. We rushed each other again. I hit him again in the ribs, but he got a hit right on my nose. I think he might have broken it, considering how much blood gushed down my face. The pain, though, didn't seem to back. We broke apart, and instead of throwing a punch the next time we rushed at each other, I jumped, kicked him in the face, breaking his nose with an audible crunch, and his blood went everywhere. We kept throwing punches and kicks at each other, obviously tiring, but neither wanting to give in to the other. The pain was now kicking in, radiating from everywhere, and I was ready to end this one way or another. I kicked Antoine's knee again, another hit in his most likely bruised ribs, and I went around jumping on his back, wrapping my arm around his neck in a chokehold, squeezing as hard as I could. Antoine tried to pull me off, only managing to rip my shirt, and when he fell to one knee, I said, I can either knock you unconscious or you can give up now. If it's all the same, I'd rather you just give up. He growled at me, again tried to get me off his back. Antoine even fell backward, slamming us both on the ground, but I still held on. He continued to struggle, and I squeezed tighter. Seriously, he was going to be a dick about this. Fine, he spat out. I call it finished, he wheezed out, and I let him go. Grinning despite how tired and in pain I was, I stood and helped him up. I have a proposition for you if you'd like to hear it. He rubbed his neck, eyeing me with obvious suspicion as Father and Dean came to us. Good job, Nick. I knew you would do it, Father said. Dean let me lean against him, and I tried not to glare too hard at Father. Just remember our agreement, I told him. Yes, well, of course I agree. That was a mistake, but the second. Don't be foolish, Nick. You're the alpha, and I'm your father. Wrong, I said, then spat out some blood on the floor just in front of him. I'm not the alpha, and if you don't agree to my terms, not my father. However, I'm willing to negotiate some aspects currently. I turned away from him to focus on Antoine. I would really like it if you and Beth stayed with us for a few days. Get yourself healed up, and there is something I wish to speak to you about. Anton's stony-faced expression stared back at me for a long time. I could see I confused him. The usual custom was for him to leave the territory now unless he wanted to risk being killed, but I had no intention of running him out of town. I thought he was going to refuse at first, then Beth whispered something to him, and he agreed. What are you doing? Father hissed once Beth led her maid out of the room and most likely to the infirmary. He fought well, and he seems like a decent guy, I replied. Swallow your pride, Father. We won. Let's have a celebration tonight. Dean, help me to my room. I think I need to get cleaned up, I'd say. You're a mess, Dean teased, and I hugged him, not missing the relief in his voice. Hey, I won. You thought I was going to get my ass kicked, I told him. Dean laughed. Nick, you got your ass kicked. That you kicked his ass more doesn't change that. I joined his laughter as we slowly made it to my room. So what are you up to? What do you mean? Inviting Antoine to stay like that. It's not how things are usually done, he said, giving me a curious glance now. Well, I'm not the usual, so expect the unexpected, I teased, then sighed as we made it to my room. The guy fought well and took the loss with grace. That's worth celebrating, and I want him to join us. And I stared at him surprised. How had he gotten to know me so well in such a short period of time? And I think he should be the alpha of Golden Plains. Wait, Dean said, helping me to the bathroom. If you thought he should be the alpha, why did you fight him? And miss that fight? No way. It was fun as hell, I said, and started to grin, then stopped when I saw my reflection. I looked like a psychopath, smiling with blood all over me. I didn't stop the fight because I wanted to see what kind of man he was. But you always wanted to be alpha, and this is your pack, Dean said. I did, but not anymore. I want to be with you more and work with Harry on the better packs, I replied. Besides, for an alpha and pack to work as they should, there need to be trust, and Dean, I don't think I could ever trust fully in this pack ever again. Not after what they did. Yeah, I can understand that. Good, now I have to shower, I said, and when he didn't move, I added, meaning you leave. He smirked at me. I don't know. You might need help. He even dared to wink at me. I laughed and shook my head at him. Go on, Dean. Shoo, I swatted at him, playfully. Dean pouted, but kissed my cheek and left. The hot water stung on the few cuts I had here and there, but on the whole, it felt good. Afterward, I went to the infirmary to be checked out. As I had requested, there was a huge dinner and celebration. I was glad when I saw Beth and Anton there as well. Thank you for coming, I told them. Antoine's dark skin was even darker, where his bruise had gone purple and black. My own body was mottled with similar colors. By the morning, they'd be all gone, but for now, we looked like quite the pair. Thank you for inviting us, but why did you invite us? Beth asked, suspicion coloring her tone and expression. Because I'd like to make you both an offer. As the winner of the challenge, I am now alpha of Golden Plains, but Father and the pack chose the coward before me. It's something I don't think I can forgive, but I still care for them. In calling me, Father can't be alpha anymore. He's proven to be too weak to accept challenges. I think you'd be fair and treat them well. I would like Antoine to take the alpha ship for me with Father as beta. If you didn't want to be alpha, why did you fight? Beth asked. Funny, Dean asked me that same thing. Honestly, I wanted to pit myself against your mate. I wanted to see if I could beat him. Ask Dean, I love a good fight, I told her. So Antoine, what do you say? Would you consider taking the pack with Father as beta? And what does he say about this? Antoine asked. I started to speak when I heard Wesley call out my name. My heart leaped at the sound of his tone. Something was wrong. I turned to face him, and my eyes widened. He was covered in blood. I looked around, and my heart sped like a herd of wild horses. Two people weren't here yet, Dean and Father. I ran to him. What happened? Tell me everything now. Whose blood is that on you? 2728. Come with me, Wesley said, eyeing Antoine and Beth. His face pale and sickly. He grabbed my arm, but I pulled away from him. Tell me whose blood that is now, I was shouting, and I didn't care. Your father's, he replied tersely, and this time I let him guide me out of the large dining room and down the hall. What happened? I demanded and waved for Antoine and Beth to follow. Had Antoine done something? I thought he was a good man, but I wasn't exactly an expert in the character judgment department. Wesley licked his lips, glancing at the others. Forget about Antoine and Beth and tell me. I was heading back when I saw it, Wesley said, grief washing over his face. I didn't realize what was happening at first. I just saw our father fall and Brandon over him with a knife. Brandon attacked father, I said, horrified. Attacked Nick. He was trying to kill him. He was going to stab him again when Dean stopped him. I stumbled to a stop. Wes, tell me you're joking. He shook his head. I got to your father and got him out of there. He didn't look good. And Dean? What about Dean? I don't know, he said, trailing off. Where were they? I demanded, then shouted. Now, Wesley. Library, he said, and I ran towards the library. There was blood everywhere, but I didn't see neither Dean nor Brandon. My heart clenched painfully as I left and ran to the infirmary. Hopefully he was there. I swear if Brandon hurt Dean, I'd make him hurt more than he'd ever hurt before. The infirmary was buzzing with action, and my heart relaxed at the sight of Dean alive and well, mostly well. His hand was wrapped up, and he had a nasty cut on his face. Dean, I said, running up and hugging him. Are you all right? What happened? I was talking with your dad, trying to warm him up to the idea of Antoine being the alpha when your acircumflex Brandon just showed up. He was acting all like nothing had happened. Your dad kept his word, Nick. He told him to take whatever possessions he had and leave. Brandon started arguing. He tried dragging me into it, but I stayed out. I thought it was something they needed to work out together, if I'd known, but it all happened so fast. He'd already stabbed your dad twice before I realized I shoved him back before he could do it again. We fought. He got me a few times, then ran when I guess he realized I was stronger or something. I hugged him, not only to thank him, but also to help ground him. He was looking so lost and dazed, it nearly broke my heart to see it. Thank you, Dean. After a few moments, he hugged me back. How bad are you? I said, pulling back to his face and hand. The blade must have been silver because it wasn't healing like it should. I'm okay. They say it'll probably scar, but hey, girls like scars, he said with a shrug and attempted a smirk, though it was nothing close to its usual cockiness. I hugged him again, thanking God and anyone else who'd listened that Dean was there for father. It'll make you look tough, I told him. He hugged me back, and we took a seat in one of the few chairs there, waiting for news. I wasn't sure when either of us fell asleep, but we both jolted awake when a tired-looking doctor tapped me on the shoulder. Sorry, she said apologetically. I sniffed, shook my head, feeling my whole body ache. No, it's fine. How is father? He's alive, she said, and I knew there was a but. But his healing isn't going as it should due to silver contamination. Silver contamination, I repeated, not sure what exactly it meant, but it didn't sound good. Like silver poisoning, but usually not fatal. Usually from silver plating and stuff like that, Dean explained, and the doctor nodded in agreement. I believe the weapon used on your father was plated instead of actual silver. During the attack, the plating flaked off, making him weaker, she added. So how long will it last? Can't you do anything to counter? The doctor shook her head. It can be countered, and it will last indefinitely. It's too small of a quantity to be removed or the body to reject it, I'm afraid. Will he be in pain? I asked, squeezing Dean's hand in an attempt to keep the panic back. Not chronically, but your father is now physically on a human level. He can get hurt easier, heal slower, and can get sick. My throat tightened. My father couldn't stand it when his knee hurt and the weakness it planted in him. Now it might have been better for Brandon to kill him. As soon as the thought entered my head, I shoved it away. No, it wouldn't have. How could Brandon do this to him, his own father? Dean pulled me closer. When can she go see him? You can go in now if you'd like, the doctor offered. Again, I squeezed Dean's hand. Thank you, I'd like that. You'll come in with me, right? I asked to look at Dean. Of course, if I can. The doctor nodded, and we went into father's room. I swallowed as I looked at him, still unconscious on the bed. He looked so frail now, and it shook me to my core. Father had always been so solid,